Skyhook Games' Cargo Line series expands this week with the release of Volume 5 Nuclear. This DLC brings players a reworked Class 20 and the FNA-D Flask carrier wagon alongside scenarios and timetable services. So far, I've ran all of the scenarios and I'm leaving the timetable services for my streams. But in all honesty, I think I've done a bunch of them already via those same scenarios. See, if you've been here for a while, you've probably heard me say that my biggest gripe with the scenarios in Train Sim World is that the vast majority of the time they're just timetable, regular A to B services. There's not much of a specific scenario or situation at hand or anything really to set them apart. And this is a shame because they can do it. We've had some good examples in the past, such as the Building on Fire scenario in the second released Long Island Railroad route. And this is what leads us into today's video. Skyhook Games have been creating content for Train Sim World since back in 2021, making their introduction with the Cane Creek route in July of that year. They then released their poorly received DBBR187 locomotive just 3 months later. Then in April the following year, they released their Horseshoe Curve route, a decent but pretty much a no-frills US freight route. And then again in April, this time of 2023, for Train Sim World 3, there was their infamous Midland mainline route. It received waves of negative feedback and caused chaos on the forums, mostly for its low effort, bugs and plentiful unfulfilled promises. Not long after that, Adam, who was initially a part of Dovetail's preservation team, took over at Skyhook, and I believe personally that was when things started turning around. After the post-release care and effort that the Midland mainline route received, it sits as one of the top UK routes in the game to this day. Now in August of 2023, Skyhook released a livery pack for their Horseshoe Curve route, and then in December, a few months after the release of Train Sim World 4, they released their first Cargo Line DLC, focused on petroleum. This utilized the Class 66, surprise surprise, and introduced the VTG TEA tanker wagons in 5 different colors. The scenarios and services that this DLC brought into the game were spread out over both the Midland Main Line and the soon to be remastered Great Western Express route. I cannot wait for that remaster. Although players were beyond tired of the Class 66, this pack brought a refreshing experience to the game. So when these tankers were full, they produced a challenge, honestly, unlike what we had seen before in a UK route. Now, me personally, if you watch my streams, I kind of, shout this from the rooftops, but I usually pride myself on being able to drive whatever train, whatever formation the game itself will throw at me. And I remember during the time that this DLC released, this was on stream as well, if it wasn't embarrassing enough already as it was. There was a single scenario, it's either a timetable run or a scenario, and I'm pretty certain it was a scenario, where I spadded 2 or 3 times in the same one. And even though, it was challenging, it gave me the feeling and the immersion of actually being responsible for transporting heavy goods. It forces you to think way ahead of time compared to any other UK freight run. Now in spring of 24, they released the second DLC in the series, which was focused on aggregates. And I'll be honest, this was the one where I got a little bit excited, and I'll tell you why. So not only did we just get a new set of wagons in the form of the VTG HOA hoppers and services and scenarios that were split over 3 different routes, which were the Midland Main Line, the Great Western Express, both of them again, And also this time the southeastern high-speed route, which I'm not gonna lie is already my number one UK route personally. So you know, if it wasn't a banger enough as it was, we now had two brand new scenarios. So in some of those scenarios, once you'd finish up, you know, sorting, loading, unloading, etc., all of which was completely simulated and animated, by the way, you would go into your little porter cabin office and end the scenario there. I'm pretty sure there were a couple where you started the scenario there as well. And although it's something that was so little, it was effective. Like, it gave you the feeling of actually, you know, either finishing up after a long day's work or getting started, you know, about to get cracking on for a long day's work. And like, even in the office, it didn't hold back. I mean, just look at this. Completely furnished, completely detailed, all the little details, and even the laptop can open up. It's just incredible. And honestly, these are the little details that play an important role in differentiating a sim from a game. It also showcases passion from the developers and a real love for what they do. So, you know, great. It's all great. But that was when things started going a little bit downhill. So, I say this strictly from the perspective of a player. Perhaps the way Skyhook started doing things after Volume 2 worked better for them from a business perspective. I don't know, I really can't say. Their Volume 3 intermodal DLC dropped for Train Sim World 5. And those nice extra little details just seemingly went out the window. We were back to the basic monotonous pattern of A to B scenarios. Then their Cargo Line Volume 4 released, focusing on military transport operations. And you know what? I'll be honest, I'll keep it real. I was, when it first came out, and I still am, in awe, and I'm just wowed by the details of the included KWA War wagon that came with that DLC. But the scenarios there too were simple A to B runs. Now fast forward to today, and yet once again the scenarios are all A to B, and that's it. Now, I get that maybe it's somehow not possible due to the nature of the runs and the details surrounding them to have a porter cabin or even a proper building on the side of the tracks that we can access. But surely there are ways to revive, or honestly at this point completely resurrect, that creative spark that had just begun to shine through at Skyhook. Ultimately, it's not the job of us players to think for the developers whose content we buy into. And so I hope if and when a Volume 6 does appear, we're wowed once again. The reality is, with regards to the game, third-party developers have more or less taken the torch from Dovetail's hands and are also seemingly not tied down the same way that DTG are. With their many releases in recent years seemingly just pushed out the door, whether they're ready to be pushed out and sold or not. And there's a real opportunity here for Skyhook, in my opinion, and other studios as well, to completely 180 many people's thoughts and opinions on the game. There's just so much untapped potential. I mean, just look at what modders have been able to do, be it create, you know, wave splashes on the Riviera line, implement real life weather both historically and in real time, or even just enhance the game's graphics beyond what was thought possible. And you know what? There's actually so many more. Like, I can't even begin to do all of these modders justice for how alive they've made the game. Again, you know, unfortunately, only if you're on PC. In my ideal world, DTG would pause all the content work and solely focus on repairing and strengthening the core, letting their cuts from third-party content carry them through temporarily. Or even if that's not possible, just release smaller DLC such as gameplay packs during that time. This would in turn, hopefully, give third-party studios more confidence that their hard work won't fall apart once placed within the TSW internal ecosystem, giving them more of a reason to invest more effort, more love, more passion into their work. Though, on the other hand, with Metro Rivals on the way, created on the UE5 platform, one can only wonder if the clock is ticking for TSW as we know it. and its heartbeat. Thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Stay safe, health is wealth. Until next time, peace out.